Tell me again, how do you miss the mark? I shoved my hands into my pockets and pressed my lips together to keep from grinning. I swear, Anya, this is the last time I follow one of you heaven's reapers anywhere. Anya and I walked down a 2-lane strip of asphalt that glistened with puddles of leftover rain. Somewhere in the distance, a second round of clouds let out a hungry grumble. Anya silently kept pace beside me, the gold band around her biceps glinting with each feather-stopped footstep. She turned her nose up into the air. I never miss a mark. Then would you mind explaining why I'm walking up a mountain to get to our reef? We could have just flashed there. She squinted at her surroundings, hesitating. I knew we were close, but it was way too fun messing with her to let this one go. It's okay to admit you're losing your touch, I said. I'd be happy to take the lead on this one. Anya held up her hand, ignoring me. Do you hear that? I stopped, listening to the mangled wail of a horn in the distance. As if pulled in by the sound, a black blur like a cloud of ink whipped past us before disappearing around the bend. Shadows, scavengers from the outskirts of hell. Souls that weren't chosen to start again, had escaped their reaper, or hadn't earned their way into heaven, so they'd been left to decay and rot. They were soulless beings that craved the sense of death, the taste of a soul. I hated them, but I hated the memories they brought back even more. Every shadow that blurred across my vision was a cold reminder of Allison, the love of my afterlife. What I'd done to her, what I'd almost let her become. Her name tumbling around in my skull made my chest ache. But I couldn't change it. I'd never be able to change it. I'd pushed her into a world where we'd never be together again and nearly got myself banished to hell in the process. The shadows would never let me forget it. After 15 years of penance, Balthazar wasn't likely to let me forget it either. A sick feeling started to brew in my gut, so I shook it off and watched another black blur zip past us. At least they always led us to our target. See? Anya smiled and skipped ahead. We're here. Sure enough, around the last bend, a candy apple red Camaro lay upside down, crumpled like a discarded Coke can at the tree line. The horn blared, the sound careening off the rock wall and slamming back into the cliffside forest where it splintered into 1,000 echoes between the branches. If I had to guess, the car had taken a similar journey. A ringlet of white smoke seeped from under the ruined hood and twirled up into the air. Looks like we have a winner. Anya pulled her pearl-handled scythe from the leather belt she wore around her white dress and twirled it in her hand. The 12-inch blade, with its efficient palm-sized handle, gleamed like it had never even been used. I glanced down at my fat excuse for a scythe with its plain iron handle and dingy blade. Heaven's reapers got all the perks. I may have been a slave to the Inbetween, but I was still a reaper for God's sake. We were supposed to be the stuff of nightmare and legend. You'd think they'd at least give me a decent scythe. Hey, what do you think the chances are of me scoring one of those? Keep dreaming, Ben. I stopped, leaving a few feet of distance between the car and me. Whoever was in there wasn't ready for me. Not yet. A slow warmth, an ache, spread through my chest and drove sparks through my veins. Not the impatient, icy burn I would have expected from a reap at all. That was different. Anya strolled past me, the shimmery brown plates that hung down to her waist swaying behind her. Look at the bright side, she said. At least they did away with those awful cloaks. She gripped the scythe and looked to the heavens. Her lips moved around the words to a prayer, one she'd never let me hear. Then with a graceful sweeping motion, the blade of her scythe sliced through the car. She tugged once, twice, and yanked her glittery prize from the wreckage. Anya shoved her scythe back into her leather belt at her hip and pulled the man to his feet. The shadows were on him in an instant, hissing and swirling like smoke around his legs and waist, just waiting for us to make a mistake. They were desperate, hungry. Of course, their reaction wasn't really a surprise. Balthazar had loaded the territories with reapers cutting off their food supply. Souls rarely slip through the cracks anymore. Anya turned around, tucking the soul behind her, and swung out her scythe. The shadow shrank back before dissolving into an oily spot on the pavement. She scowled and shoved her scythe back in its holster. Vermin. Vermin. I'd almost doomed Allison to be vermin. I couldn't look away from the dark spot on the pavement. Emma? The soul babbled, rubbing his head. His eyes swam dizzily in his skull as he tried to regain his bearings. Emma, you have to help Emma. Have you called an ambulance? I closed my eyes, trying to block him out. I didn't want to know her name. It's going to be fine, sir. She's going to a very nice place. Don't worry. Anya looked up at me, her odd golden eyes begging me to back up her lie. I couldn't give him what he needed. What he needed to hear was that his daughter was going to live a long, happy life. All I offered was death. I wouldn't lie to him. The fact that I was about to take his little girl to the in-between was bad enough. If she ever decided she was ready, that is. I glanced back at the car, waiting for the icy pull to kick in. Something still didn't feel right about this. Dad, a girl's broken voice cried from inside the crumpled car. "Help her," the man cried, trying to scramble towards the car. Anya easily held back his shimmering form. "For the love of God, she's only 15 years old. You should have helped her first." Now the pull kicked in, except this pull was dizzying and familiar, but in an unfamiliar way, and getting stronger by the second. My head spun with the force of it. Something was wrong here. Nothing about this felt like a standard read. But I swear I felt this before, once. Memories pulsed through my mind in blinding flashes as I inched towards the vehicle. Soft as satin lips, warm whispers against my neck, smiles like the sun. The pull intensified like a pounding in my chest, and my knees buckled. I knelt down to the broken window. Something like hope surged through me, followed by a cold rush of fear. I could only think of one other time it had felt like this. Back when I'd killed a soul from a frail, bloody body packed in snow. The day that had changed me forever. No, it couldn't be her. Not again, and not like this.